With 9 worlds, 1 tutorial world, and the overworld hub, Banjo Kazooie offers a wide range of different worlds to explore. Different in design, different in charm, different in challenges. There's so much to consider. I only recently played this game for the very first time. Better late than never, but I need some help from the experts in creating a world tier list video. Back in February, I did a live stream with a lot of you, and we let the polls decide where to place each world on a tier list. There were some, metaphorically, digitally, blood, sweat, and tears. But let's go over the results. We're gonna start off with Spiral Mountain since that's where the beginning of the game takes place. Rightfully so, it's sitting on B tier. It's the tutorial world after all. After learning some of Banjo and Kazooie's basic movesets and collecting the extra life honeycombs, we don't spend a whole lot of time here. The Spiral Mountain design is iconic, and of course there's the classic N64 design of entering the mouth of our enemy. Personally speaking, I think I would have voted for Spiral Mountain to be more in C tier, not saying it's a bad world, but to make more room for some of the banger worlds that will eventually get placed above it. But funny enough, the poll is tied for both A and B tier, so I broke the tie by voting for B tier. You all had some positive feelings towards Spiral Mountain, so I can't argue it too much. Moving on to our world hub, Gruntilda's Lair. This was placed on a low A tier. Chat felt more confident about this decision. No tiebreakers here. This layer is certainly impressive and more complex to similar titles like DK64's DK Isle. The game absolutely encourages exploration and rewards the player for doing so with hidden jiggy pieces to unlock, as well as Mumbo transformations to reach areas that the bear and bird couldn't otherwise reach. I think we also included Grunty's Furnace Fun into the equation. It's a part of the world after all, and a really fun inclusion. Players really need to bring their A game to clear it, but I've never seen anything like this. I'm sure I'll get B for this, but personally, I would place this on B tier. Even after putting in 25-ish hours, the layout of the lair still confuses me. And chat made a great point, it's intentionally designed this way. Why would a witch's lair be easy to navigate? And thankfully, there's enough cauldrons to warp around. But I'm not a big fan of the jiggy unlocking process. And you already know, as you get further into the game, there's one location to submit jiggy pieces to unlock the next world. Then there's a different section to actually enter that world. In the beginning, those two areas are close by and easy to find, but over time, their distance grows further and further. I just don't care for this layout. That'd be like paying your golden bananas to be locker and then needing to find the actual entrance to the world somewhere else. Maybe I'm the only one with this dumb take, but overall, I respect the decision for A tier. Now for the very first world, Mumbo's Mountain. Technically, chat overall voted for C tier, but I just couldn't bring myself to see Mumbo be lower than Spiral Mountain. So, alright, admittedly, I nudged it to sit in B tier with it. Although I agree the two can be placed together, I think I would agree slightly more with them being both sitting in C tier. And the reason being pretty simple, the two worlds are tutorials. Not bad worlds, but it's easing the player into the game. The challenges are fairly straightforward, the players are still learning new movesets, new collectibles, and new characters. And the two worlds are pretty small in size to accomplish the learning curve. I think a lot about Jungle Japes at this time, and the exact same reasons as to why I have it placed in C tier. Not bad, but not the best. Not yet at least. Treasure Trove Cove is a tough one for me to place, and it was also pretty tough for chat because it tied for S and A tier. I went with the tiebreaker and voted for A tier. It's impossible to be cranky while playing this world because of the beachy vibes and tunes. I'm ready to crack open a cold one, you feel me? And there are a handful of memorable challenges like finding Blubber's treasure, the sandcastle and punching in cheat codes, or flying for the first time. For World 2, these are some fun challenges. That being said, a few things that did make me a bit cranky was that persistent shark. I mean, come on, Jingjo, you had to get stuck here? And occasionally, the layout of the world had me turned around. I still get a little lost when navigating the world, but I'm improving. I do think most of my hiccups are related to still learning the game early on. It's a very fun world though, and I can easily agree to A or B tier. Clanker's Cavern. Alright, let's talk about this one. Not a fan favorite for obvious reasons, but we had a great discussion during the stream. Chat voted for a lower C tier, with D tier falling just a bit behind it. Starting with the obvious, just raising Clanker is a heart-pounding, anxiety-inducing challenge. And it's kind of nuts that this is the third world of the game. I felt like I was still learning to walk. Now the game wants me to take on deep swimming? With breathing mechanics? I don't know. Perhaps I was too harsh with Gloomy Galleon. We talked about how this is the biggest eyesore in the world. Once Clanker has been raised, you're all set. Even if you die, you're still good to go. For the N64 version, it's a real bummer if Banjo drowns since you need to recollect everything, but I think it makes sense to just focus on raising Clanker right out of the gate, then move on. And thankfully, you're not spending a large percentage of your time swimming underwater in this world. There's plenty to do at ground level, higher up, and what's that? Inside Clanker 2. This fits in with the classic N64 era, and it made for such a fun surprise to me. On my personal list, this might sit more on a D tier, but I'm happy that overall we're on the same page with this one. Bubblegloop Swamp. I'm very excited about this world. I think it's a good one. And I'm happy to see chat felt the same way, as they voted A tier. I'm very much on the same page with them. I want to see it on an S tier, but I don't think it quite makes it because of Mr. Vile's insanely tough challenge and the rather annoying piranhas in the water. For Mr. Vile, I see this being one of those challenges you just need to buckle down and get good at. He's a real SOB, and he certainly puts the fear of God in me. I don't want to lose my collectibles, but it feels incredible to destroy him in his own game. As for the piranhas, I don't see that being a huge eyesore. It's no different from levels with quicksand or lava, and it offers opportunities to use wading boots, or one of my favorite transformations of the game. I mean, just look at this lad, the second transformation of the game, and we're a little gator. And those were just the few weak areas of the world. I think the design is top tier. Navigating it is comfortable, with so many memorable landmarks and challenges. And how amazing is it that we get to see Tip Top? Tip Top! I went my whole life thinking this dude can only be seen in Diddy Kong Racing. What a twist! Bubblegloop Swamp is a super fun world, and I think it's very deserving of A tier. We're moving on to our first S tier world of the game, Freezeezy Peak. It makes sense though, Peak is in the title. Chat felt very strongly that this is a world that deserves to sit high up on the list. I've been going back and forth in my head about where I would personally place it. While I seem to be leaning towards A tier, S tier just seems very fitting to it. This has to be one of the most fun winter worlds in a video game. Lighting up that Christmas tree and climbing inside of it is without a doubt a huge highlight of the game. Climbing to the top of the giant snowman in the center is unforgettable. So many collectibles are scattered around it, which really motivated me to search top and bottom. And boy, does it feel good to beat this deadbeat dad in a race. Come on, Boggy, take care of those kids. Those evil snowmen are a real pain in the butt though. Hearing that mocking laugh after their locked-in snowballs pummel me really put me into a rage. On the one hand, I suppose they can mostly just be avoided, but taking them out also trained me to get better at using Kazooie's Beak Bomb for the final boss fight, so I can respect the world for that. And finally, I'm so thrilled that this world offered yet another Mumbo transformation. It's the kind of extra fun that turned this world from good to great. Freezeezy is peak for a reason. So, Gobi's Valley, hear me out, F tier. No, but the polls have decided E tier. It seems pretty harsh, and I'm sorry to folks who find themselves enjoying this world, but allow me to cover some talking points. There's a loud minority of players who really don't like Angry Aztec. They find the world to be very bland in color, that the quicksand is annoying to navigate, and the layout is rather confusing. While I personally really enjoy Angry Aztec and don't agree with those statements, that's how I feel about Gobi's Valley. Look at how many different pyramids need to be explored. I couldn't tell you specifically what's inside each pyramid. It's all just a blur to me. There just aren't enough unique landmarks to differentiate one pyramid from another, and they're all on top of each other. I don't mind a compact world, but how am I supposed to know where to go when everything is yellow and brown? And for a world with a whole lot of quicksand, I would have appreciated more opportunities to recover health. In my first playthrough, I was desperately low on health and simply couldn't find a way to heal before my inevitable death. That's pretty rough. I haven't even mentioned the maze with a time limit. What a killer jump scare. I think for the 6th world, I expected more out of Gobi's Valley. It was a decent attempt out of Rare, but compared to the rest of the game, I just think it needed more time to cook. Next up, we got Mad Monster Mansion, and I'm so pumped that chat and I were very much on the same page with this one. Without a doubt, it's going high up on the list. It's my personal favorite world of Banjo Kazooie, and chat placed it right up top on S tier. Rare and spooky levels go together like peanut butter and jelly. How is it that we have Mad Monster Mansion and Creepy Castle as two banger S tier worlds? What a rush. Everything about the design in this world is so charming and memorable. Sneaking around the ghosts in the dining room, bashing through the barrels in the cellar, spelling out Banjo Kazooie with an Ouija board, and probably my favorite part, playing the organ in the haunted church. And all the little areas to explore by breaking through a few windows. I just can't stop geeking over this world. Everything about it is so lovable to me. Even Mumbo's transformation for the world went beyond my expectations. While some of the other transformations are fairly predictable, it's the pumpkin transformation that I would have never guessed. This design created one of the most comedic moments in the whole game, getting flushed down the toilet. Peak Rare humor for a peak world. I think this is a world I will forever look forward to revisiting, and dread the moment to pack it up and move on to the next world. Speaking of, Rusty Bucket Bay. What's there to say? It's the most world of all time. So the polls were a little all over the place, but C tier was decided. Obviously, we don't think very highly of it, but we do see the potential. Allow me to explain. The two biggest headaches of the world are the devastating engine room and the hazardous, oily water depleting Banjo's air. I don't have to tell you that. It's notorious to the world, and we all pretty much feel the same way about those two challenges. I had a couple close calls with the water, but that engine room definitely stole my joy and will to live. But I went forward with clearing out the engine room first, so that if I succeed, I could focus on collecting everything afterwards without the fear of plummeting to my death. Again. And again. I probably should have left that jiggy piece for later and just collect the musical notes first, but hey, that's how you learn. Once the engine room was out of the way, I felt like I could actually enjoy the world more. I love that this world isn't overwhelmingly large. There's plenty to explore inside and outside of the ship, and the several different tolls are fun and memorable. But a handful of these jiggy pieces are genuinely fun to collect, like saving the poor dolphin, adjusting the cranes, finding the code to activate these switches, the TNT crate, and the crate boss fight. I'm gonna say it, this world is rough, but it has its charm. And similar to Clanker's Cavern, it's like a water world without some of the dread of a water world. On my personal list, I see this sitting more on D tier, but I think we had a great discussion on Rusty Bucket Bay and its potential. Moving on to our last world, Click Clock Wood. I'll be very real with you all, I don't know how to rank this one. I think this world is incredibly ambitious and has a cool design. Overall, I do feel very positively towards it, but some aspects of the world are a little much. And I could tell chat was having a tough time ranking this world too. Eventually, A tier took the lead, but there were a lot of votes in S tier and C tier, believe it or not. Starting off with the positives, what a fun gimmick. 4 different rooms to represent the 4 different seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Love this. Of course, this reminds me so much of Fungi Forest and the day versus night mechanic, and the many different ways the world alters depending on what season you're in. This made for some of the most fun and memorable moments in the whole game, like helping out the beaver and timing out when to visit, the treehouse in its complete or incomplete form, picking up worms to help feed our child, the crazy bee attack, as well as transforming into a bee. Each challenge felt more fun than the last. The world just kept providing more and more goodness. So with all of these huge positives, I think the design of the world is its strength and weakness. Climbing this tree gets real old real quick. And Arceus forbid you fall down and have to climb all the way back up. Or even worse, fall to your death. Collecting everything again in this world sounds devastating. Kinda more devastating than in Rusty Bucket Bay. I mean, I didn't die, but the world took me 3.5 hours to clear. I couldn't imagine being any more unlucky and needing to take it from the top. So with this one rather big red flag and many more green flags, I think I can agree with the polls and place this one on A tier as well, sitting just under Bubblegloop Swamp. It's such a tough one, but I highly respect Rare for making it. And there you have it. I'll put chat's results and my own tier list both on screen for you to compare. It's a tough game to rank because so many of these worlds are well designed and fun. I'm certainly curious to hear what you all think down below and how you might rank these worlds. I know we're all very passionate about this game, so just keep it classy in the comments. And if you want to hear about my experience playing Banjo Kazooie for the first time, then boy, do I have a video for you.